In the studio with us today, we have the CEO, that's the numero uno, the number one guy of realestate.com, or called REA, and that's Greg Ellis. Welcome, Greg.
Morning, how are you?
Greg, I've heard that the realestate.com is the fourth largest business in Australia?
I'm not sure about that. We're, depending on the day of the week, because share prices go up and down, we're about number 70 on the ASX 200 by market capitalisation or market value. And I did hear a quote, which I'm assuming is correct, from a financial journalist, that we're Australia's largest listed media company, which I think you might be referring to.
That's it.
Yeah, so it's been, we've worked really hard with our customers and the people using our sites, our consumers, so we're obviously very proud of that achievement and look forward to the continued success.
Now, Greg, before we get right into the mix of the real stuff, let's just rewind a little bit. Greg Ellis, you got into the business a few years ago, but just let's go back before that. Where are you from? Where were you born?
I was born in a country town called Mundubbera that no one's ever heard of except the people who live in Mundubbera. Right. They're famous for growing oranges. So my father was a teacher, and back then you actually had to do a year's country services before you could come back into the metropolitan area. So I was born when he was on country service. If you go to Queensland and you go to Maryborough, which is about 3 hours north of Brisbane, and then you drive about an hour and a half directly inland. That's Mundubbera.
And so when did you go to boarding school or?
No, then my father moved back to Brisbane, so I spent most of my life growing up in Brisbane. Went to Sherwood Primary School, Brisbane State High School, where my old man went. Did my university education at what was called University of Technology at that time. Did a Bachelor of Business Management there.
Okay. Yeah.
And then moved to Melbourne in 2000. Been involved in internet businesses since 2000.
So who were you with then?
I worked for Telstra at the time, and then I came to Melbourne to take a job with Census. Lived overseas in Amsterdam and Europe for about 3 years, a year in Singapore, back to Melbourne. So we've been around.
Okay. Yeah. Now, your relationship with REA started?
September 08.
Okay.
Not that I remember, but September 08.
Yeah, and the date and the time.
18th of September, yeah.
Okay. And now, obviously, back in the early days, realestate.com was a bit of a basket case, and then it gradually sort of started to get some momentum. There must have been times with the former people running that business were wondering whether it would make the cut. When did it really start to feel like it was happening?
Well, the history of the company, in really simple terms, it started in the late 90s. It became a public company around the 2000 period. Like all internet companies, it had a very tough time in 2000 because that was the big internet bust. And I'm told the company had about 3 weeks worth of cash left in about 2000. And that's the time that News Limited became involved in the company. So our then chairman, John McGrath, who's still on our board, went to see Lachlan Murdoch at the time, is the story I'm told, and News decided to invest. And the company grew very strongly between sort of 2000 to 2006.
What percentage did they take? 60?
I'm told the initial share was about 20%.
Right, okay.
And they've been progressively moving up to the point now they own just under 62%.
Right, okay.
So, and the company's been, the early managers of REA did a very good job in winning the number one market position. But since 2008, we've made the company, I think the couple of things we've done, we've spent a lot of money upgrading our technology. So we've spent probably close to $100 million over that time upgrading our technology to make it a 21st century company. We've had a very big focus on customers about building products that meet the business drivers of real estate agents and developers of winning listings, selling listings and building a rent roll. And we've done a lot of work around our user experience, so upgrading the site features, and now a lot of our investment is going into the mobile world. So they're the things that we've made the difference on, I think.
Now, Greg, before your time, but I remember at a national awards actually,
right,
chatting to your predecessor about why they're not in mobile. We actually won an award for our mobile app, or in the mobile website.
Right.
The app was later, and realestate.com said at that stage they're not touching mobile.
Okay.
So since 2008, have you had any big change in philosophy? You know, so what would define the difference between, you know, Greg Ellis and the former CEO?
I think it comes down to three things. I think that the way that we run our company is very different now. We focus very much on what we call lines of business. So the residential market is different to the commercial market, is different to the developer market, and of course we run businesses overseas. So we develop now, we've cut our business into distinct floors, so the residential teams all work together in permanent teams. So you've got product managers, salespeople, IT people, HR, finance, actually all in the team.
So even back in the back end, so HR, finance?
All the delivery,
Okay.
anything to do with running the residential business, that group of people is actually responsible for running the actual company, residential, if you like, in mentality terms. So we're very big on the type of people that we select. The second thing is that we actually really don't have a business strategy. We actually have a purpose in life, and people are not motivated by vision and mission statements, and they're actually not motivated by money past a level that you've got enough to live on. What they really attach to is tell me why I come to work. Am I helping someone? And property is one of those things. Whether it's your business or your residential place, it's one of the 5 major events in a human being's life. Getting married, having kids, changing your job, someone unfortunately close to you dies, or you change where you earn your money or where you live. They're the 5 major events of a person's life. And our job with our real estate community partners is to make that movement of property simple, efficient and stress-free. That's actually our purpose in life. So when people come to work, so it's our culture, it's our purpose, and then we build products and services where we like to think that we speak to the market and their big take-up. On your question on mobile, 3 years ago now, we absolutely changed our mentality. So we used to think large screen world, and it has to work in the mobile world. Now our design mentality is it's mobile first and it happens to work in the large screen world. So we took that step 3 years ago.
By large screen, you're talking about desktop?
I'm talking desktop and laptop.
Sure.
I think by the end of this month, Anthony, here's a scoop for TOOP TV.
That's what we want. That's what we want.
I think by the end of this month will be 2 million downloads of our iOS, so the Apple version of our site, 2 million downloads.
That is extraordinary.
That is a very large number.
Yeah. Now, Greg, another scoop about to come up.
Right.
We have started to invest very heavily into large screen smart TVs. Do you see a market, remember this will go in history, do you see a market for realestate.com to start to look at that area?
I absolutely do, and to give you a sort of a parallel to 3D Smart D world, we were always personally a fan of video, but we could never give the user a good enough experience relative to high quality still photographs at a price that they were prepared to pay. So developers, big developers for example, could afford high quality video.
Yes.
Large scale commercial customers could afford good quality video. And it was only recently that we convinced ourselves that for the average residential vendor out there, an agent, that a good quality video experience was now available at an affordable price. Because the users made it very clear to us, I like video, but it's got to be good quality video.
Yeah.
Otherwise, give me good quality still photographs. So I'd put 3D and smart TV in the same category. Absolutely, unquestionably, that's the future of a visual medium like real estate, because I want to see the property and I want to see what's around it. But it's got to be good quality and it's got to be affordable. If you can get those things right, we'll be there.
Can I test something against you?
Yep, sure.
Right. My theory has been for 20 odd years, and not knowing, of course, flat screens were going to appear and all that,
Yep.
but we had remote controls, that the day that you could sit back in the comfort of your lounge, air conditioned, heat, warm, and just enjoy the experience of looking at a property in a really relaxed environment would be the day that we start to see big changes in the way people behave with their purchase. Now, no one contemplated in those days the small devices, mobile out in the field, but I still to this day believe that with the 3D and with the way that the technology is moving and the speeds with national broadband rollout, that you'll literally be sitting back of an evening and doing 3D inspections of endless amounts of property, then grab your tablet to find your way there and basically have all your brochures and everything all on your laptop or even on the big screen, but probably on your laptop. And I see that happening pretty soon.
I certainly agree with that, and I'd probably go a step further, which is something that I'd love the real estate community to start thinking about so that they are really relevant to the property market in sort of a 5 to 10 year view. Interestingly, the property market all revolves around a Saturday peak. Now, that's not actually very efficient.
But it's also not very happy times for people with kids playing sport.
Absolutely.
And all the commitments the weekend, even just birthday parties and...
So I could absolutely envision a day when you're surrounded by the devices that you've just mentioned and all the connectivity in the world and all the information that you need to make a decision. And a real estate agent, either hosted via something that we provide for the real estate agents or your own facility, where you'll actually buy property online. Now, every time I mention this, real estate agents say it'll never happen. It will happen.
It's already happening.
And, you know, I quote a little story about my son. If you don't think there's any emotion in online auctions, he was bidding for a PlayStation 2. So when we lived in Amsterdam, our house was unfortunately robbed.
Amsterdam would have been huge.
Yeah. So our house was unfortunately robbed and they nicked his PlayStation 2. So he went onto eBay to bid for a PlayStation 2. And the words that he mentioned when he missed the auction, let's say his mother stormed in the room and gave him some feedback. So if you don't think there's actually emotions in auctions, I disagree with you. And I think the agent community can think about how it runs its business and how it facilitates those online transactions, which will be upside for the agent. Can you imagine a day that as a real estate agent just sitting from your desk and you're running 5 sale processes just through instant messenger chats between the buyers and sellers as they're looking at the content? Now that is a 21st century agent.
Now, you know, the traditional agents are absolutely terrified of realestate.com, RP data and domain, don't you?
I do.
What have you got to say about that?
Well, I would say to them, you have nothing to be concerned about, with the exception that if you don't move with the times, you'll be left behind the times. I've been on public record and we've put it in writing, and I say it again, we will never, ever, ever, ever take $1 of commission. But we are about making that property process simple, efficient and stress-free for buyers, sellers and agents. What's to stop realestate.com.au partnering with the agent community and say, actually, you'd like your Saturdays back to spend with your family, wouldn't you? And if auctions can be done or private treaties can be done through the week and you can have your weekends available and you can actually make more money than you do today, that sounds like a pretty good deal for me. So we're about making the whole property process move simple, efficient and stress-free. We are not about trying to disintermediate people. But us, ourselves, everybody else in this cycle has to go with the times. You don't change with the times, as you know, Anthony, and you know you're to be congratulated for moving ahead of the curve, because you don't move, you're dead.
Greg, I'm actually delighted that it's happening.
Yeah.
I absolutely think that how can we retain some old-fashioned whatever? It'd be exactly the same as saying that why wouldn't we use a horse and cart to, to move around, the city or the country?
Yeah.
Because we've moved on.
Well, you've got the parallel today, just to jump out of our sector. Imagine now the current retailers of Australia and their business model, and they're trying to compete with the Amazons of the world. If you actually don't make the transition, someone is actually going to make you a victim of history. That's just the bottom line of the world we live in. So the agent community and the property owners and the consumers are demanding better product and services. If someone provides it, the market's going to move. And I ask the shareholders of our major retailers how they're feeling about the Amazons and the Zappos and all of these retailers that are coming in. No one can stop the march of technology and efficiency, and that's what happens.
And people are time poor, and
yeah.
And so they want their time back and take control.
And also too, as a property owner and a buyer, I'm really happy to engage in the property market, but I don't want to be ripped off. I don't want to be treated like a person who doesn't know what I'm talking about, because that just doesn't describe most people today. You know, you just can't work in a world today where you're not dealing with the full and
reality.
And the full extent of the market and the reality of the market.
As I say, it is what it is.
It is what it is.
Now, I could go on for another couple of hours, but we do need to move on. I'll come back with another couple of questions in a minute.
All right.
Let's go to Going, Going, Gone.